The 10th House of Representatives is set to begin the 6th alteration of the 1999 Constitution to review areas requiring amendments based on citizen demands. Arise correspondent Tunji Olanipekun filed this report on the pre-inauguration meeting of the House Constitution Amendment Committee.
The 1999 Constitution, handed over to Nigerians by the General Abdulsalam Abubakar regime, has been widely criticized. Since 2010, Nigeria's parliament has made attempts to make critical amendments to the document at different occasions, with some successful while others didn't go through. Amendments such as judicial reforms, electoral reforms, taking some items off the exclusive list to the concurrent list are major achievements of the amendments, while issues like state police, economic restructuring, devolution of powers to states are still hanging.
The committee is fully aware of the concerns of Nigerians on the need to finalize and conclude discussions around Nigeria's constitution. I would like to state, however, that the nature of Nigeria's constitution and the history around how it was made and handed over to a new civilian government in 1999 makes it imperative for us to continually revisit the several provisions of the Constitution and work towards accomplishing consensus on outstanding constitutional debates.
Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, says 40 bills are at various stages of consideration which relates to the alterations of the Constitution. According to him, some of the challenges with the alteration include insecurity and economic difficulties. He expresses the hopes that the amendment process will involve mass participation, transparency and credibility. The Constitution Review Committee, which will be inaugurated on February 26, 2024, is expected to work diligently on the 40 bills to meet the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians.
We are well aware of our present challenging circumstances as a nation. The twin challenge of insecurity and economic difficulties could tamper with the confidence of our citizens. It is therefore our constitutional responsibility to respond to the 40 bills so far proposed and also attend to the duty of government to ensure the security and welfare of the citizens as provided by the Constitution.
The Constitution Amendment Committee is expected to conclude its work before December 2025.
All right, Rufai, let's go straight into that story. Call or a process of constitutional amendment, and beginning with the 10th Assembly. Your take on this story?
I mean, so we're very happy about it. There are many matters up for consideration, about 40 matters, and we know how the process goes. The inauguration will be done, I think, 26th of February, then the process will span up to 2025. Because after that, 2025 December, then we'll be looking at the election cycle again. And we normally go through this every year, but the question is, what tangible things do we make out of it? And issues around security. Are we going to be clear on the need for state police once and for all this time around? And the state look for a way of funding it? Because these are the things the APC promised prior to this time. In fact, they even set up a committee led by El Rufai as regards it to be able to get the cases of insecurity sorted. Some we achieved, yes, as regards, putting some things off the exclusive list. For instance, electricity and all of that. The fact that states can go ahead and make generation of electricity and all of that, and some other very key cardinal points that would pretty much open up the economy. But the states have not been able to take that on and be able to push forward as regards that. Also, the full autonomy of local government, it has to be said. Prior to this time, local government elections used to be handled by INEC, 1998. I think that was about the first election in the local government cycle. I think that happened on the 12th of December, 98. But since then, the state governments have been able to go out there and, get the courts to be able to see the local government to them. I think for the full functionality of the local government, we don't need state electoral bodies, because it's just another, outpost of the governors. This local government system needs to be fully autonomous and independent. That's another conversation we need to have. Also, we need to go further to also have, conversations about integration, the full integration of this country, the consistent unity of this country. I mean, these are matters up for consideration. We also need to have critical matters as regards rule of law and powers of the presidency. I have always advocated the fact that the Nigerian president is a full-on monarch, and we need to be able to whittle down some more powers. The presidency, the central, that's the federal government, needs to be able to devolve more powers. Also, we need to have conversations about the resource control. How do we control the resource? Yes, some concessions have been made in recent time as regards how we control the resource. But the bulk of the resource still goes to the federal government. But where should be the center of excellence? Should be the states. And should be the center of productivity, should be the states. So what do we do as regards that? And myriads of many other issues that should also dominate the conversation. Also, we need to also look at our election system and, other systems of things and how things pretty much run in the country. So it's always a good one. I hope when we start the negotiations and the conversation at the town hall meeting, people will be able to, impute and put their input in, and their voices will be heard. Because we remember when the last process happened, it was as if the lawmakers had made their decision already. And we remember the case of how, I think the wife of the president now had an altercation with a certain lady, when the town hall meeting was going there for the constitutional reform. And we don't want cases like that.
That's the wife of the former.
The wife of the current president. Then she was a senator.
Okay.
We remember that altercation back and forth. And we don't want things like that. We want people to be able to air their views as regards various issues in the society. And please, as a citizen, if you want this country to work, please be part of this process, because this constitution affects you. I remember a couple of years ago, we had the chance to interview the former former head of state of this country, Abdulsalami Abubakar. And he made a very important point. He said, yes, you people have criticized us, for giving you a very flawed constitution and all of that. But why don't you change it? And that's a formative question we've not been able to answer all these years. We've had, Constitutional Review Committee and all of that. The reports have just been abandoned there. We've had many conversations about how our country should go, but we've not had the political will to effect them. So we can't keep doing these half measures and let this process count for something.
Political will, Rufai, and letting the process count for something, as you rightly mentioned, it's not the first time. And usually there's this fervor at the beginning of the tenure of each assembly, or whether it's the 9th or the 8th or the 7th assembly. But towards the middle end of the tenure, the fervor and the zeal seems to wane, especially with regards to a constitutional amendment. There have been calls for this, especially very recently, for a look at establishing state police, or making provision for state police. Following the incidents in Ibadan and in Ekiti, the recent incidents in Plateau State, the governor of Ibadan, Governor Seyi Makinde, had made a recent call as well for the establishment of state police. He had advocated for this, saying that now more than ever, and it must be expedited for us to consider state policing, because it seems to be, or it appears to be, perhaps in his estimation, the one sure way of tackling insecurity. On the other hand, the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, the governor of Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodinma, had mentioned that he didn't think that state policing was the way. He said this over the weekend, that state policing wasn't the way, because in his estimation, no subnational would be able to finance a full security architecture to govern their state. He said none at all. I beg to differ. I know there's some states who would struggle with this, but there's some states that are quite capable of doing this. Lagos State, for instance, and that's why Lagos State as well has pushed for state policing. In fact, on their the first meeting of the 10th Assembly of the State House of Assembly here in Lagos State, the Speaker of the House, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, had made a call that this was going to be their priority area to ensure that they pushed and is sent to the National Assembly for consideration this move for a constitutional amendment for state policing. So Lagos State is on board. Oyo State is on board. The southwestern states seem to be on board. Some states, however, are still insistent that perhaps this is not the way to go. Now, how will this materialize, or how will this come to life if there's no cohesion of thoughts or ideas from these governors in terms of the position of state policing? There is some merit to the fact that perhaps some states are not going to be able to manage, but then it might then be the true test of the leader of that state, the governor of that state, with regards to securing protecting lives and property in that state. This will definitely be top of the agenda when it comes to constitutional amendment reform. And like you said, Rufai, everyone should put their hands on deck. It's not enough. So when it comes to active citizenship, beyond going out to vote on election day, in the course of the tenure, there are other aspects that we must take advantage of. And that's why we always ask the question, how many people even know their local representatives in terms of the House of Representatives member? How many people know who even their state assembly representatives? We don't know. We just vote and then we move on without checking, seeing if they are representing your views, representing your position in the House. I believe that it's important that when the town hall meetings begin, Lagos State Governor held a town hall meeting with the the Lagos West Senatorial District, and there were many key issues discussed and some important deliberations brought forward. This is important. I hope governors, people will come around and take part in governance. We'll move on to our next story. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, SAN, has said there is no going back on the planned move of the headquarters of Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, from Abuja to Lagos. Keyamo, who described opposition to the move as a storm in a teacup, pointed out that over 100 staff of FAN operated from Lagos, with a handful consisting of top directors in Abuja. Keyamo disclosed that the call for the relocation of the agency to Lagos predated his appointment as aviation minister. He explained that the headquarters of an organization did not necessarily mean the largest building or place with the highest number of staff. He said it was rather where the decision makers sit, stating they are all in Lagos, they are not really in Abuja. Keyamo stated that the relocation would further enhance the operational efficiency of FAN as the old building can adequately attend to the accommodation challenge being faced in Abuja. All right, Keyamo says no going back, insisting, despite the calls for saying, no, we will not take it. FAN is going ahead, is moving FAN, the headquarters of FAN, to Lagos.
150% support Keyamo, and I say kudos to him on that. No going back. See, Ayo, we cannot, and I repeat, we cannot mitigate important issues on the table of interest and tribalism that doesn't move the nation forward. Let's stop doing it. For all of those that made the argument about not only FAN, but also, what's it called?
The CBN.
The CBN. They should remember, because everybody now made it a free-for-all. What have they done for a region? They should remember that National Inland Waterways is in Kogi. They should also remember that the Local Content Development Board, their big headquarters in Bayelsa, led by Engineer Simbi Wabote. Mm-hmm. They should also remember that NIMASA had been in Lagos because of the ports. In fact, it's bang right on in Apapa. So it is for operational efficiency. And let's stop this dichotomy. What about the federal star power stations that are up in the north? Did anybody complain about it? And the same person that was speaking about the CBN issue, his daughter was working there. Yeah. So what is all of this talk? And kudos to him. Those farm people should go and resume work. You heard what Keyamo said yesterday? He said when he saw the books, because they had put some offices in Abuja, they were spending close to $1 billion on air tickets alone. Apart from that $1 billion, the risk. Because you want to put, the offices in Abuja. If there are certain areas where you can have proper operational efficiency, go ahead. So on that, I 110% support Keyamo. And he said the right things. They should get to work and let's stop all of this bigotry and this game we play. This game has not moved Nigeria forward. People would rather monies and government money should be wasted because it suits their own personal interests, because it must be from a certain region, and in the end they threaten there will be consequences in the election. What consequences? Enough of these threats in this. What consequences? What consequences? What will happen? Enough of all of this. We can't allow this happen. He said many other things. Then he talked about the Air Nigeria deal. Nigeria Air deal. He said the EFCC is looking into that. I just hope the EFCC is able to get their facts, because it's one thing for you to go to EFCC, but we never see prosecution. The prosecution ratio is very low. He also talked about a couple of other things as regards what they're doing, to revamp the airline sector, bringing a lot of innovation and all of that. we just would like to enjoin Minister Kiamu to ensure that he succeeds. Let us see the working. It should not be about talk and all of that. He should get all hands on deck to ensure things are properly run in his ministry, and he does the best for Nigeria. That's all we require. But on that, I support him 100%. On other issues, we might disagree. But on this, right on, Festus.
Sure working. Well, you must give kudos to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development. We often said it, that it's not to just criticize. Criticism that's constructive, or very importantly, where what is done is in the right direction. And obviously, we'll make a big show of that and commend the efforts. I believe that for leaders in Nigeria, especially at this critical time, you must have a lot of guts and courage to not only propose far-reaching, drastic reforms, but be willing to go all the way despite veiled and obvious bullying tactics to not do so. When the Minister of Information announced the movement of FAN, which is one out of, I think, 7 agencies in the aviation space, he actually mentioned that his predecessor, Hadi Sirika, had moved in 2020 the headquarters of these aviation agencies under the aviation sector to Abuja. So they were once in Lagos, they moved to Abuja. Now, as with a number of decisions that are made by some officials, he made the decision without properly thinking it through with regards to how he was going to house all the, and beyond just the heads of these agencies, the directors, principal officers. And so the buildings are not adequate to accommodate the number of staff members that have had to move from Lagos to Abuja in this time. Then he also said 450 million naira. Listen to that again. 450 million naira is what they spend on tickets alone. Now, I don't know which era he's even speaking about, because know that inflation rate has pushed the cost of tickets even higher. That to sign a document, one file, you come from Lagos to Abuja, then return from Abuja to Lagos, and from Abuja, back and forth, wasting public resources. And all someone is thinking about is whether it is region or not. Nigeria should be at the forefront of the basis of our arguments for why we agree or disagree with a particular policy reform or a particular reform in any agency. Unfortunately, this was not the case. And so, right on, Minister Keyamo, we are with you. And I believe the Nigerian people should support good initiatives and reforms like this. We're hoping that other ministers will also take the cue, and also in other agencies and areas, look at how they can cut wastage and trim wastage in the various departments. But again, like you mentioned, still a lot to do in the aviation space, and we will hold him to account, especially with the promises that he's made.